On Saturday, middleweight unification bout between Canelo Alvarez and Danny Jacobs.
Yes, sir.
To be fought at the T-Mobile Center in Las Vegas. Looks like it's a home game for Canelo.
Mm-hmm.
Always a home game.
Tim, how do these two match up in terms of the technical aspects of the fight?
You there?
You there? Hello, Gene. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here. You said Tim.
Yeah, I know. I always be messing up.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I know. I felt myself saying it, or I remember saying it after I said it. Anyway, I meant you.
Okay, no problem. So this fight, really excited about this fight. This is probably one of the tougher fights that Canelo's had in a long time. I thought his most difficult fight was Alvarez. And I think Danny Jacobs kind of fights very similar to Erislandy. He can, but the true test for Canelo is the fact that Danny Jacobs is 6'1", Canelo's only 5'8", 5'9". So Danny Jacobs actually has a reach on him as well. He's got a lot of power too. So Canelo, for this fight, is going to have to find a way to get inside to be able to let his hands go. So if he can do that, he should have success. Now, what Danny Jacobs has to do is just box Canelo and keep him on the outside so that he can't come in, because Canelo Alvarez has short arms. So if he can keep Canelo on the end of the punches, it should be a fairly easy fight for him, especially given the fact that Danny Jacobs, he fought Triple G, and I had Danny Jacobs beating Triple G. Now, Triple G got the decision, but I thought that Danny Jacobs thoroughly outboxed, Triple G, especially in the latter rounds. So this will be a good fight on paper. Who I like for this fight, I like Danny Jacobs by decision. I think Danny Jacobs can get it. I think he can get a decision on Canelo.
Okay. There is a little bit of a backstory in terms of Golden Boy Promotions and Danny Jacobs being their original big name fighter, not named De La Hoya. And based on what I read, it looked like they pushed him to the side when Canelo started coming up. And Jacobs might have, and well, there's definitely a rivalry now that exists between Jacobs and De La Hoya with Canelo in the middle. Is that actually the case? So there's a little bit extra here for both sides?
I think so. I know Danny Jacobs has a lot of respect for Canelo. This is what he talks about in his interviews. But he also talks about how he was disappointed with Oscar because Oscar never really promoted him the way he tries to promote himself. And so Oscar De La Hoya has a reputation now. Even after the Errol Spence fight, he made a comment on Twitter telling Errol Spence if he wants to make real money, he needs to come to Golden Boy because Errol Spence he's a free agent on the promotional rights. And so Errol Spence's response is like, everybody knows that you don't treat black fighters very well, so no thanks, essentially. So
wow, that's a thing.
Yeah,
that is a thing. So there's some credence to that whole logic in terms of Danny Jacobs because of what Oscar had an opportunity to do with Danny Jacobs, and he didn't do anything to really help or really build his career the way he's helped build Canelo's career. And that's the big knock for Oscar. That's why he can't sign any of the big fighters in terms of who are black or white, because of the fact many of the black and white fighters believe that Oscar is just not going to put forth the time and effort into promoting them the way that he promotes Canelo.
So, truth be told, De La Hoya is of Mexican heritage.
Correct.
And he promotes, obviously, he has a little bit more of a vested interest in Mexican fighters doing better.
Okay.
Right, I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair, but here's the problem with that. The problem with that, Joey, is the fact that if you're a promoter you can't adopt that type of philosophy because that's not going to win you fans, nor is it going to win you money in terms of putting butts in the seats.
Right.
At the end of the day, you look at promoters like Lou DiBella, you look at Richard Schaefer, you look at main events, Top Rank, even Bob Arum. They do a much better job of promoting all their fighters, regardless of culture or ethnicity.
Right.
It's just that Oscar he's failed at that, and it's showing because his numbers are not very good outside of the two big stars, Munguia, Jaime Munguia, and Canelo Alvarez, who are two Mexican fighters. Those are the only two fighters that he really has right now, as well as his nephew, the other Diego De La Hoya, and then also too he's got Ryan Garcia, who's an up and coming fighter who I actually like. I think he's pretty good.
Okay. I'm gonna let these two gentlemen get in really quick. Any questions that you guys have for Gene? Go ahead.
I'm just curious with the whole race thing is a little interesting. Is Bernard Hopkins still involved with Golden Boy?
He is, and it's funny. That's a great point that you brought up. Now he's a stakeholder. He owns, if I'm not mistaken, 15% in Golden Boy. But ever since Richard Schaefer left, they lost a lot of the minority fighters that they had because Richard Schaefer is always the type of guy who's always worked across the aisles with anybody. And he's also really good friends with Al Heyman. So a lot of the earlier fights, even for Floyd Mayweather, were all promoted by Golden Boy. But it was when Richard Schaefer was the CEO and chairman and was head of all the operations for Golden Boy. But when Richard Schaefer and Oscar De La Hoya had that falling out, and Oscar told, Richard Schaefer that he didn't want him, running Golden Boy anymore, that's when you started to see the downturn of the company itself.
So, Gene, before you have anything?
No, that was it. I just thought the Bernard Hopkins thing I would think would help my case, or he would be more involved with those minority fighters.
But you know what? I mean, honestly, I can see it coming from a minority culture like that, that you really go hard for your people. You know what I mean? I can really, really, really see it. I know if there was a Jamaican managing with a promotion company and a Jamaican fighter came up, that guy's going to get...
But as soon as that Jamaican dude gets knocked out or retires, you're done.
Yes.
So
exactly.
it's a balancing act.
You're right.
But for this fight, before I ask you my question, Gene, I am kind of excited about this because I like to see fights made that people want to see. This is a fight that a lot of people said Canelo should have avoided. You got this popular Mexican fighter from Mexico going against an East Coast blue collar guy that's beat cancer before, so he's a brawler. He's ready to rumble. How dangerous of a fight is this for Canelo to take, and can he get knocked out in this fight? Because that's what Danny wants to do, he said.
Well, Danny, let me tell you, Danny can really punch. I don't think he's going to be able to knock out Canelo. I think he can hurt him.
Okay.
But
Mexicans
also,
do eat
too,
they do.
I was really kind of hoping that fight was actually going to get made in Brooklyn because, Daniel Jacobs is in Brooklyn, and with the fight scene in New York being so huge right now, that would have been the perfect venue for the fight. But it's fine that it's going to be in Vegas. I'm just, just going back to the whole point with Golden Boy. I'm not sure that Canelo's career can take the hit if he loses the fight because, it is Golden Boy's cash cow. Canelo is Golden Boy's cash cow. So there isn't anybody else that they can build up and that can generate the kind of money that Canelo generates. Now, they're trying to build Jaime Munguia up like Canelo, but he doesn't quite have the star power that Canelo has. So it's very, very important that Canelo beats Danny Jacobs, but I don't know if he's going to be able to beat him. So it's going to be interesting to see how that fight, in terms of, what happens. I'll be watching the fight this weekend. I'm excited. It's my birthday weekend, so I'm definitely going to be tuned in, to be watching that during Cinco de Mayo. And,
One last question. Is there a legitimate concern that if this fight goes the distance, the Vegas judges are going to go with Canelo regardless?
I hate to admit that is definitely something to think.
They will. He's the big money guy.
I hate to be the one to say that out loud, but if we go to decision, there's a strong chance that Canelo could get the decision, like he got with Erislandy Lara, as well as what he got with Austin Trout. I thought that Canelo Alvarez lost both of those fights against Erislan Millar and Austin Trout. So, but it went to a decision, and so anything can happen. But I think that's a good point, Joey.
Right. Now, I was reading Danny's Jacobs' couple of interviews, and it looks like he's trying to bait publicly Canelo into making a mistake. It seems to me like his camp is trying to set up Canelo to get knocked out because they don't want to go the distance. So they're saying stuff like, he can't move, things that would make him try to go against what he would do best to get him into a trap.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. The strategy is perfect. Because here's the thing. I think, as you've already stated, there's a very strong chance that if it goes to decision, Danny Jacobs is not going to get that decision. So he needs to go into the fight basically with the auspice to go ahead and try to do his best to knock Canelo out, because that's the only way he's going to win.
Okay. All right. So you are picking for this fight the winner to be Danny Jacobs by a decision.
By decision, yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to call the score. The score will be 115-113.
Okay. All right. I like it. You're getting very, very confident, Coach.